Welcome to Practical Talk Time, and we have a guest that we've had on many times with us, and she's back, Debi Fox, and this has kind of been a discombobulated day that we're taping on for one reason or another. Debi thinks she's out of things to say, but I think we'll manage to say something, and I do want her to get on here in the future and talk about herbs, but she's holding off on that, and we are going to talk again about astrology, and in particular, we'll be talking about eclipses coming up. And I'm sure Debi can also fill in, you know, not knowing your chart, but by your birth date, there's certain people we know would definitely be affected by it, or if they have an air sign, we'll get into that. And welcome again, Debi.
Thank
nice
you.
to see you.
And as you said earlier, me run out of things to say? Oh, well. It feels like I am, but my family would say otherwise, I'm sure. It's always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me back tonight.
Oh, glad to have you anytime.
Thank you. And tonight I want to talk a little bit about eclipses and how they affect our lives and in our charts. And in the old days, they used to think that eclipses portended something that was doom and gloom. And actually, in these more, I should say, well, I hesitate to say enlightened times, but we've learned to take into consideration that it can also mean that it's a great deal of change that can come into one's life when the eclipses hit our charts. Mainly if it hits on the 4 angles or hits a personal planet, I would say that there would be more of a change coming in. But these are all things that can be seen as positive changes too. For instance, the first eclipse that we have coming up that I wanted to mention is on May 20th. It's a solar eclipse. It's going to be at 7:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And it's going to be at 0 degrees Gemini, 21 minutes. Now, that's
in
close
May?
to 1. Yep, that's May 20th, and it's very close to 1 degree if you want to round it off to that. So those of you out there who are Geminis, that would be a very important eclipse to take into consideration, especially if it hit any of your planets from 0 to 10 degrees of Gemini. If you have Gemini rising especially, or Gemini moon, or Gemini sun, those are some of the areas that to take a look at and where it is in your chart and what it's aspecting.
And especially those people who have been born the first 10 days of Gemini.
Yes, absolutely, because that would be taking into consideration 0 through 10 degrees, starting with 0 on the first day of the Gemini, and then the 10th day of that dispensation would go to the 10 degrees. So it's 30 degrees in each sign. So
like the month of May, those
right.
people with Gemini,
That's
definitely.
right, absolutely.
Not meaning that other people wouldn't feel it, but those we know
right.
for sure.
Absolutely.
And what about the sign before? The out of sign?
Well, Taurus, it could still affect Taurians in late degrees, like especially the anaretic degree of Taurus at 29 degrees, or anything, I would say, up to 5 degrees prior. About 25 degrees Taurus out to 5 degrees Gemini are hot spots, especially. Or if you have a planet that's on the midpoint. If you have a planet that's at 25 degrees Taurus, and you had a planet that was at the opposite in Gemini extreme, then you would take the midpoint. If anything that's the midpoint that equals 0, that would be especially a hot point as well.
Right. Sensitive points that
yes,
people that don't study it would have to see
yes.
the astrologer.
That's more Uranian astrology, but midpoints do act as triggers in the chart.
But more people are using them even
yes.
without the Uranian now.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And I particularly enjoy using them because they can focus, bring into things play that you might not see otherwise. If you do a 90-degree sort in your chart, which is taking your chart and putting it on a 90-degree dial and sorting them out by mutable, fixed, and cardinal signs, it then immediately shows you all the squares in your chart. So it kind of like is taking a kaleidoscope and squishing it down and looking at the hot spots. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So I'd imagine it would affect people on a very mercurial level, whether it's communications, cell phones, computers, books, cars, that type of thing. So if, for instance, you had...
Even the TV show like
yes,
this. Yes,
absolutely.
films.
Yeah. If you have this eclipse in your first house, it might be something that you're trying to change about your looks or your environment. And in Gemini, it might be something to do with your hands, something that's bicorporal, whether it's legs, hands, it's two, usually two. Or it could mean that if you have a twin, because I know of several people with Gemini rising that are twins, it could be a change, perhaps something going on with the father or husband in their life, especially if you have the sun in Gemini in your first house. If it's in your second house, it could mean that you're taking on maybe an extra job to make some more money. It might be to do with communications, or maybe you're spending money on a second phone or a second piece of equipment, media equipment. If it's in the third house, it would be short trips. Perhaps you're writing a lot of letters on that type of day. But
Or maybe even meeting with neighbors.
Absolutely. The effect of the eclipse, though, with the sun being a solar eclipse, it's bringing to light things that need to be integrated. So we're going over to the polar opposite, which usually happens, in this case, it happens in June. It's going to be in Sagittarius. So if you look at both sides, like for instance, in my chart, this is going to happen in the 4th and 10th house. The Gemini would be in the 4th house, which rules your abode, your home, end of life matters, things coming to an end. For me, with the Mercury ruled 4th house, it could mean children moving back, moving out, coming and going, graduating from school. I have a lot of that going on because I have 6 kids and 6 grandkids, so they're revolving doors. But with the polar opposite polarity being the lunar eclipse happening in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter up in the 10th house, it's some of the things that happen by looking to one house to the other, is it can be more activity going on and struggling to try to balance the two out. You're home, you're struggling to go back to work, or you're going to work, or you're trying to make time for being a mom and a wife, and also going to work.
Your profession.
Your profession, absolutely. The June 4th eclipse is going to be a lunar eclipse. It's going to be at 7:03 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Daylight Time. It's going to be at 14 degrees Sagittarius. And that's going to probably take whatever the changes came in at the solar eclipse, and you're going to be able to go straight across the chart, in your chart, and implement some of those things. It's going to be the fallout, the kind of the emotions around whatever the solar eclipse brought out.
And we're both personally being hit by it, you in your 4th and 10th,
Yes.
and my
And your
1st
descendant.
and 7th.
Yes.
Yes.
So for you, it would be 1st and 7th
Yes.
things.
And I do know that it'll be my 7th house, May 20th. Wasn't planned this way, but we're actually going to be, John Newmiller will be filming, we'll be at Henry Hull's home, and it's going to be a cooking show for Practical Talk Time.
That's great. So it's bringing, speaking about cooking into someone's home, and with the Gemini, it would be taping it, would be the communicating it out, disseminating that information to the public.
Yes.
So, and also forming perhaps a deeper partnership with that person, because if it's on your descendant, it would mean something good comes of that. And you would going to feel very much at home there.
He's actually going to be doing, well, part of it will be doing ribs 3 ways. One will be, the ribs will be in a smoker, take 8 to 10 hours to cook, and the other will be direct and indirect charcoal grilling of the ribs, and we're going to have guests
Sounds
coming
yummy.
in and tasting it and the
Great.
differences, and he's
Wow.
doing the sides, and
Now, does he
we're
have a
still
restaurant?
planning it. Pardon?
Does he have a restaurant?
No. This is just an avocation. He's taken some classes in Manhattan at a well-known culinary school, but they do some classes for the general public, and I guess he does a lot of entertaining.
I think things will be good coming from that program, because when the lunar eclipse sets in June 4th, directly opposite in Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, there's going to be perhaps an invitation extended to him to teach more. There's going to be interest in this. People always love cooking programs or any kind of thing to do
And,
with that.
and John Newmiller will be doing the editing, so it'll take it won't be shown immediately, but hopefully around before or after Memorial Day is what we're aiming for, but you never know. That's
Sounds
what we're
like
planning.
the timing is right.
Yes.
Now, November 13th is another solar eclipse. It's going to be at 5:17 p.m. It's going to be at 21 degrees Scorpio. 57 minutes. So we call it 22 degrees would be safe enough because it's so close. That's going to be falling in my 9th house. And that's the house of legality, spirituality, higher education. So if there's any kind of course that I'm going to be taking or doing, it's a good time for that.
Or maybe you would be giving a course.
Could be teaching a class. I know that I'll be finishing up my Chinese medicine studies in June. So in November, it could very well be, because that's when I do some of my classes of my own on astrology. It might be a good time for me to do a new moon dream board, which is taking a poster board and superimposing your natal chart on it in large size, and putting the pieces of the pie, the 12 houses in it, and essentially copying each planet where it belongs in the chart. And it's becoming like a small child, getting all these magazines and taking scissors and looking where each new moon falls in the house. You take your ephemeris out and you put them in each one. Like, say, we just had a Taurus new moon that falls in my 3rd house. So I would say to myself, well, how does Taurus affect my 3rd house? Taurus is Venus ruled. Maybe I want to beautify my neighborhood. Maybe I want to plant some flowers around the neighborhood or environment, or with my siblings or sister or brother, because the 3rd house is very much that. Or have a cookout, because Taurus rules food. So what I would do, it would be like a wish board, a dream board. I'd cut pictures out that would correspond with what do I want. Do I want a new grill? Do I want from cooking? Do I want to put a new garden in? Then cut out something that represents that and paste it into that section of the chart. And by the time you're done, you've got 12 different houses with 12 new moons in it, with a object representing what it is that you want. Perhaps maybe it's a new car you want.
Would it ever be possible for you to bring that in and show?
Yes, absolutely.
Do a show and show people how what it really looks like.
I have a
Because I
chart
think as we're talking,
that's done.
people that are not into astrology, we get so used to speaking about it that I think some people might be listening and saying,
What is
I don't
she
understand
talking
what they're
about?"
talking about. Yeah.
It's like planting. It's an opportunity each month to plant a new seed in a different area of your life where it can grow, where it can grow fruit, so that you can see at the end of the year what has come of that. It's acting as a catalyst in your brain. We all know that if we look at something, write something down, take pictures of things, and really write affirmations out and concentrate on things, that's lots of times we attract that very thing into our lives. So it's like being children playing, but yet being serious in our play to manifest what it is we really want.
I think what people would need to know are how to find out where the moon is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. So you would need your chart, run, and you would need to know where each new moon is going to occur each month in your chart.
In the chart, right.
Right, and that's easy enough with an ephemeris, but if bring it to your astrologer, they can help you chart it out too. So, yeah, it's lots of fun to do. I've had a lot of people have a lot of fun with it. And when I did mine one year, I did kind of, not silly things, but just it was light. I wanted a pair of boots. I wanted to go on this certain trip. It was just like something to do with furniture. It was like a little table. And when I looked back at it, I was like, oh my God, I got exactly the pair of boots that I put on the paper. I wasn't even thinking about it, but I ran across them. They were on sale. I grabbed them, and it was in that month. So it's interesting. And the same thing with doing exercise class or yoga class. I had cut out a picture of a yoga mat and, getting back to shape, diet, stuff like that.
Oh, I just got an idea from you, yes. I'm going to have to use it because I had a doctor's appointment today. I'm on the sleep machine, so the next thing is I have to lose weight because now I can be up. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, I don't know what I would want, and as you're talking, and I think that might be a good reason to do a show with the dream board.
It would be fun.
Give people ideas. I know my cousin is not into astrology, but for years she has cut pictures out of magazines.
Right.
of things that she's wanted.
And this is just
But I
kind of
haven't
honing
answered
it down a little more. It's focusing in on it more and more. Like for
Where it
instance, for
belongs.
dieting, I would probably see where the new moon is in the first house and the sixth house because of diet. Sixth houses are everyday habits, our food, the things we do on a schedule. So if you were to plug in a picture of someone doing their exercises that goes along with what you're doing, or a picture of even the box top off and maybe the diet plan, you know what I mean? Something that would like pique your interest and keep your mind and your brain on that. But also the day of the new moon is a good time for you to start that. So when it comes to that new moon in that month, that's when you would start that diet. Yeah.
And I also would think it'd be important not to just do the first house on looks, not to just say, well, I want to get thin, because we'd want to get thinner in a healthy way.
Right.
Not the result of an illness or whatever.
You want it healthy,
or a bad diet.
especially healthy. Yes. When Saturn is in the
They
first
say be
house.
careful what you wish for.
Yes, because Saturn can take off too much weight. When Saturn's in the first house, you got to be careful that you take time to eat, because it can make you race around and deny your body the food. Wherever Saturn is in our chart is where there's a restriction, where we're not. We're holding the crystallization. It's where we need to move forward more, but we have to slow down and take care of whatever's going on in that house.
Well, I would think even with Saturn, it might even be that you could put weight on. If you're in a restricted in time, you might just grab something. It's easy to grab candy and all the wrong food. Yes,
That's right.
Yeah.
And conversely, if Jupiter was transiting your first house, it would make it really easy to eat too much.
Jupiter rules
Yeah.
my first house.
But hey, you will never go without. When Jupiter is, especially on the cusp, just coming out of the 12th house into the first house right there, it's like that 11th hour angel, the guardian angel. It's always like the thank the Lord kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's always
I have a
somebody there.
Sag rising now.
Yeah.
Jupiter's in the 11th.
So you have God around you. You have that spiritual guardianship at all times. It's wonderful. The solar eclipse in Scorpio, that would be a time for people to really dig down deep, because it's Plutonian ruled. So it's the stuff that we need to really get in touch with. A lot of people aren't comfortable about those scorpionic, intense feelings. And you are a Scorpio, so you are very much at ease with all of that. So where is Scorpio in your where's your sun?
12th house.
In your 12th
Conjunct the
house.
ascendant.
So this is that would be a optimum time, November 13th. If there was any kind of
November?
thing, that you needed to ferret out,
It's right before my birthday.
it would be perfect time for you to set that intent of something that you needed to deal with in your psyche, or perhaps also.
And it's really right near my, within a degree, I would say, of my Venus sun.
Wow.
The sun's 2950 and Venus is 12 something. So that eclipse will really be hitting like the sun, Venus, close to the sun, Venus midpoint.
It would be acting as a laser beam to dig down in to see whatever it is that you need to deal with in terms of bringing out that Venus. And loving that Venus and how you want to tweak that Venus, to represent what is hidden down deep inside, to bring it out. And as that solar eclipse, as that sun moves down into the first house, and it brings it out into a newer way of looking at yourself.
And I think we need to tell people, too, that an eclipse, I think sometimes if it's on a planet, you might feel it strongly that day, but tell them about the time frame. You don't necessarily feel it right on that day.
Absolutely. You can feel a solar eclipse, my Lord. Some people think up to 3 months prior and 3 months after. I tend to think it's more like 4 to 6 weeks. You can feel it building, and then it peaks. And they all come in serial cycles, actually. We repeat these over and over again over periods of 19 years, and then they start in again. And there's a good book by Bernadette Brady on serial cycles on eclipses. And Rose Linneman, I think that's her last name, she had a wonderful book on eclipses.
And Dietrich Pessin has
Yeah,
done
oh,
fabulous
yes,
work.
absolutely.
I haven't read the new version. It's now on print number 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the revised. Yes, I got it.
And what's the name of it? Is it on moon
It's the
phases,
same
or-
thing, but even more
or
involved. She's added
eclipse?
more and more to it. I
Yep.
can't think of the exact title. I got it when I was up at a conference in Boston
Yeah,
a few months
she's
back.
excellent. I remember hearing her speak at the ASC.
And she did all that on her own. It wasn't based on other people's work. It was what she noticed in charts, and she really delved into it very, very
Very
deeply.
pioneering.
Yes.
Must be some Virgo and her and some Scorpio as well to be able to have that focus and be able to research deeply. I'm not sure what her chart's
I'm
like.
not sure either. I'm sure she said, but I really don't.
November 28th is another eclipse in Gemini, 6 degrees. So it brings forward what we were working on, what's illuminated May 20th. Then comes the feelings around it and how we integrate that into our lives. So that's just a little bit about eclipses. I don't know how much more time we have left, but would you like?
I think we have a few minutes left.
Uh-huh.
We have 7 minutes left.
7 minutes left.
Yes.
Okay. What would,
Maybe we could tell the people about, since the Gemini, give them the dates and the birthdays. It would also be trining the other air signs, right?
Absolutely.
So maybe we could talk about the trines, because that would be the easiest for people to feel. And unless someone has, again, their whole chart, you really can't tell. But in general,
Well, Gemini would be trining Libra, and anything that's at a midpoint at Leo at 0 degrees. If you have a planet at 0 degrees Gemini or a planet at 0 degrees Libra, that would be a trine. And then if you divide that in half, halfway would be 0 degrees Leo. So if you had one planet at 0 degrees Gemini, one planet at 0 degrees Libra, and let's say you had Jupiter right on the midpoint, it would be a catalyst for those two planets.
but the air signs would be Gemini,
Aquarius.
Libra, and Aquarius, right? Those three birthdays, the early,
Those are going to be
the first
affected.
10 days,
Yes.
like
It
from
would
the
all
20th
affect
to the
them.
30th
Yes.
of the month. Yep. People who have those signs, the 20th to the 30th of the month, would be feeling the effects of the
They
Gemini
would be feeling it
eclipses.
the most.
And you want to give them a
Absolutely.
date? I don't have the date in front of me.
It's May 20th at 7:23 p.m. Now for June 4th, Sagittarius is a fire sign. So all you fire signs, there's Leo, okay, and there's Sagittarius and
Aries.
And those people would be very much affected by that. And it's a lunar eclipse, so they might find that they're feeling more emotional about things, and they might feel like it's almost kind of like a little, not raining on their parade so much, but maybe they can't move forward like they're used to. Like Aries is so Mars ruled, and Sagittarius thinks in a big way with the Jupiter, and Leo, with the Sun. When the lunar eclipse comes along to affect those, it kind of makes them think about their emotions about it and how that affects other people and how they can integrate those emotions in a way that's more controlled, not so out there, forcing forward. Because
You've seen a controlled Leo? Oh, you're a Leo, aren't you?
Well,
No, Leo
actually,
rising.
I'm a Cancer.
Leo rising.
And I have a Leo moon.
Leo moon. I knew
And
there
I
was
have
Leo
Aquarius
somewhere.
rising, but all my progressed planets right now are over in my 7th house in Leo, except my progressed moon is in Virgo. So,
So it's really been an excellent time for you to appear on TV.
yes, it has been, actually.
Yes. With that
Yes.
Leo being on
Yep.
stage and in front
Absolutely.
of people. Yeah.
Yep. So I have to learn how to, dial it back. I think Curb Your Enthusiasm, that's what it is. There's that wonderful TV program, the man who wrote Seinfeld. And it's funny. It's so funny. And it's about how he's just so enthusiastic about everything, and he just gets himself into trouble so easily. He just walks out the door, and it's a true story. And they follow him and film it. So it's a lot of fun to watch that. But he must be a Leo. But he's pretty, what's the word for it? Woody Allen-esque, though, too. So there must be something else going on in there. But
Yeah, the water signs would tend to hide.
yeah, right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Scorpio, the Cancer, the
Yeah.
Pisces, yes.
Yeah, they would definitely be emoting more. So now you mentioned to me that your Scorpio sun is in the 12th house, where your Gemini is on the descendant, correct?
Right.
And where your Sagittarius rising.
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm being hit right on the angle as you
yeah,
are.
you really are. So these are going to be some important times, it sounds like, for you.
Yes.
It can usher in changes too, as well. So that the thing about the diet, June 4th, sounds really good, I think, for you. And where is your natal Jupiter? Is in your first house as well
No,
as ruling it?
11th.
You're in your 11th.
11th, but it rules the first.
Yes, because it's
Yes.
Sagittarius. So it's posited in your 11th house of friendships. And are you going to any kind of a group to do this weight loss? Or
No, I have nothing planned in particular. No,
Yeah.
that I like to do on
on
my own, yeah.
Because I think friends will be very supportive of you, though, because of that Jupiter in the 11th house.
But I have unusual friends too. I think I have Jupiter trining Uranus in the 7th.
Okay.
And you know, Uranus is unusual. and-
Absolutely.
yeah.
And what's your Jupiter in?
Libra.
Libra. Okay. So the people that love you and see you as beautiful, just the way you are.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yes.
We have about a minute and a half left, a minute left.
Uh-huh.
And anything that you want to add about eclipses at the end now?
Well, I do think that the energies are kind of weird around eclipses. I do think that they can tend to damper down the energy a little bit, and people can feel very tired around prior to and after eclipse. So to eat good, exercise, and sleep well, and so that you can be open to the changes that come into your life, the potentialities of them. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, very happy to have you, and I look forward to seeing your dream board. And I think people that watch would be interested
I'm
in
going
that
to bring
too.
that along next time, and it's pretty big, so you can see it. I can open it up and people can see. And maybe we can talk about each of the houses and the new moons a little bit at that time.
And you are finishing up your studies with the herbs in June.
Well, yeah, I've done my Western herbology, and I'm finishing up the Chinese herbs in June. And then I have to do 4 units of Materia Medica, which is intense studies of the species of botanicals. And then I do my 2nd year.
And then we're going to
then
have
an
to have you
intern.
back to talk about this. Thank
Absolutely.
you very much again
Thank
for
you.
being on. And thank our viewers for watching the show, and hope that you enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at practicaltalktime@yahoo.com. If you might have questions about this program or any others, or suggestions for other guests. Thank you.